The laptop screen glowed in the darkness of my home office, casting harsh blue light across my face as I stared at something that would change everything. There it was, right there in Claire's Dropbox folder marked Design Projects, a 23-minute video file that had absolutely nothing to do with interior design. My name is Ryan Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, a lawyer at Henderson & Associates downtown, and until 3 minutes ago, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. My wife Claire runs her own design business, we live in a nice colonial in Maple Heights, and our 15-year-old daughter Megan is getting straight A's. The American dream, right? Wrong. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The video showed my wife of 16 years having an affair with my best friend Alex Grant in what looked like a hotel room. Not just any hotel room. I recognized those tacky floral curtains from the Riverside Inn downtown. The timestamp showed last Tuesday when Claire told me she was meeting a client about a kitchen renovation. I sat back in my leather chair, surprisingly calm. Maybe it was the lawyer in me, trained to compartmentalize shocking information. Or maybe I was just too stunned to feel anything yet. But as I watched my wife moan my best friend's name, one thought crystallized in my mind. They were both going to pay for this. I clicked through Claire's other files. More videos, going back months. Text messages saved as screenshots. Can't wait to feel you inside me again. Ryan's working late tonight. Come over. I think about leaving him sometimes. That last one hit different. Leaving me? After 16 years of marriage, after I worked my ass off to pay for her design degree, after I supported her through her mother's cancer scare and her failed attempts at starting 3 different businesses before this one finally took off, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Claire, coming down for her nightly glass of wine and scroll through Pinterest. I quickly closed the laptop and leaned back, trying to look casual. "Hey, honey," she said, padding into the kitchen in her silk pajamas, the ones I bought her for Christmas. "Still working?" "Just finishing up," I replied, studying her face. She looked exactly the same as she had this morning. Same blonde highlights, same green eyes, same smile that used to make my chest tight with affection. How long had she been lying to me with that face? "Don't stay up too late," she said, pouring herself a generous glass of Pinot Grigio. "Megan has that talent show tomorrow night, remember?" "Wouldn't miss it," I said, and I meant it, because by tomorrow night I'd have a plan. She kissed the top of my head, a gesture that now felt like a mockery, and headed back upstairs. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close, then opened the laptop again. Time to do some research. Alex Grant had been my best friend since college. We were roommates at Northwestern, best man at each other's weddings, godfathers to each other's kids. His wife Jessica was Claire's closest friend. We vacationed together, had dinner every Sunday, spent holidays as one big extended family. I pulled up Alex's social media. There he was, grinning in his Tesla, posting about his latest tech startup success, sharing memes about grinding and living your best life. His wife Jessica worked as a nurse at the Children's Hospital, pulling 12-hour shifts while Alex played entrepreneur. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex himself. "Hey man, still on for golf Saturday? Need to get out of the house. Jessica's been moody lately." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Absolutely. Looking forward to catching up." Because we were definitely going to catch up. All of us. I spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Claire's browser history showed regular bookings at the Riverside Inn, her credit card statements, the ones from her business account that I'd never bothered to check, showed charges for lingerie, expensive dinners, and a recurring payment to something called discretion suites. The betrayal wasn't just private. It was financial. She'd been using our joint account to fund her affair, probably for months. The woman who complained when I bought a new suit for court had been spending hundreds of dollars on hotel rooms and attractive underwear for another man. But the real kicker was in her text messages with her sister Linda, screenshots saved in another folder, probably for her own insurance. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," Claire had written. "Ryan's so boring lately. All he talks about is work and Megan's college fund. Alex makes me feel alive again." Linda's response, "Just be careful. You've got a good thing with Ryan. Don't blow up your life for some midlife crisis." "It's not a midlife crisis. I think I'm falling in love with him." Love? She thought she was in love with Alex. I closed the laptop and walked to the kitchen, pouring myself 3 fingers of bourbon. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Claire's white noise machine upstairs. 16 years of marriage, 16 years of building a life together, buying this house, raising our daughter, planning for retirement, and she was ready to throw it all away for Alex Grant. Well, if she wanted to blow up our life, I'd make sure the explosion took everyone down. I pulled out my phone and started making a list. First, I needed more evidence, something ironclad that would hold up in divorce court. Second, I needed to figure out exactly how deep this betrayal went. And third, I needed to plan the perfect moment to detonate this bomb. Because if Claire thought she could humiliate me in private and then waltz away with half my assets and custody of my daughter, she had seriously underestimated who she was dealing with. I wasn't just Ryan Mitchell, boring husband and father. I was Ryan Mitchell, attorney at law, and I was about to remind everyone why I'd never lost a case that mattered. The bourbon burned going down, but not as much as the rage building in my chest. Tomorrow, I'd start gathering ammunition. By the weekend, I'd be ready to declare war. And the first battle would happen at our dining room table, in front of everyone who mattered. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm and lay in bed watching Claire sleep. She looked peaceful, almost innocent, with her hair spread across the pillow and her face relaxed. It was hard to reconcile this image with the woman I'd watched on that video, arching her back and calling out Alex's name. "Morning, honey," she mumbled as my alarm went off. "Coffee?" "That'd be great," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll grab a quick shower." In the bathroom, I stared at myself in the mirror. I looked older than 38, with gray creeping into my brown hair and lines around my eyes from too many late nights at the office. Maybe that's what drove Claire away. Maybe I'd become the boring suburban husband she complained about to her sister, but that was about to change. At the office, I called in a favor with Tommy Reeves, a private investigator I'd use for some of my more complicated cases. Tommy was ex-military, discreet, and thorough. "I need surveillance on 2 people," I told him, sliding a manila envelope across his desk. "My wife and my best friend. I have reason to believe they're having an affair." Tommy opened the envelope and looked at the photos I'd printed. "How long you want me on them?" "Until I have everything I need for a divorce. Video, photos, financial records if you can get them. I want documentation of every meeting, every hotel visit, every lie." "This is going to cost you, Ryan. Surveillance ain't cheap." "Money's not an issue. I want them buried." Tommy nodded. "I'll start today. Give me a week, maybe 2, and you'll have enough evidence to take them both down." Back at home that evening, I played the perfect husband and father. I helped Megan with her homework, complimented Claire's dinner, and made small talk about our days. But underneath, I was studying them both, looking for cracks in their performances. "How was your day, honey?" I asked Claire as we cleaned up after dinner. "Good, busy. I had 3 client meetings and a site visit for the Henderson project." She didn't meet my eyes when she said it, focusing instead on loading the dishwasher. I pulled out my phone and pretended to check emails while actually opening the GPS tracking app I'd installed on her car that afternoon. According to the data, she'd spent 2 hours at the Riverside Inn between 1 and 3 p.m. The Henderson project was across town. "That's great," I said. "The Henderson project's really taking off, huh?" "Oh yes, they're very demanding clients. Lots of hands-on work required." I almost laughed at the unintentional double entendre. Megan's talent show was that night at the high school auditorium. We sat in the 3rd row, Claire on my left, her hand resting on my knee like we were still the happy couple everyone thought we were. Alex and Jessica sat 2 rows behind us with their twin boys. "Hey, Ryan," Alex called out during intermission, making his way over with 2 cups of coffee. "How's the legal eagle?" "Can't complain," I said, accepting the coffee and looking him straight in the eye. "How's business?" "Booming. Just closed another round of funding. Might be able to retire by 50 if this keeps up." He grinned that cocky grin I'd once found charming. Now it just made me want to punch his teeth in. "That's great, Alex. Really great." I clapped him on the shoulder, squeezing just hard enough to make him wince. "We should celebrate. Maybe dinner this weekend? All of us, like old times?" "Absolutely. Claire mentioned you guys haven't been out much lately." I felt Claire tense beside me. When had she mentioned that to Alex? "Yeah, we've been in a bit of a rut," I said, watching both of their faces. "But I think it's time to shake things up. Really shake things up." The second half of the show started, and Megan performed a piano piece she'd been practicing for months. She was talented, our daughter, with Claire's artistic sensibilities and my attention to detail. As I watched her play, I felt a surge of protective anger. This divorce was going to hurt her, and that was on Claire and Alex. After the show, we all walked out together, making plans for the weekend dinner. Jessica looked tired, I noticed, with dark circles under her eyes and a forced smile that didn't quite reach them. "You okay, Jess?" I asked as we reached our cars. "Just work stuff," she said. "Pulling double shifts because we're short-staffed. Alex has been working late a lot too, so we barely see each other." I glanced at Alex, who was suddenly very interested in his phone. "Working late, huh? That's rough." "Yeah, Well, success requires sacrifice, Alex said without looking up. It sure does, I agreed. Sometimes you sacrifice more than you realize. That night, after Claire and Megan were asleep, I went back to my office and opened the laptop. Tommy had already sent me his first report. Photos of Claire and Alex entering the Riverside Inn at 1:15 p.m., leaving at 3:45 p.m. Close-ups of them kissing in the parking lot. Alex's hand on Claire's ass as they walked to their cars. But the real goldmine was the financial information Tommy had managed to dig up. Alex's startup wasn't as successful as he claimed. In fact, it was hemorrhaging money, and he'd been using company funds for personal expenses, including those hotel rooms. I leaned back in my chair, pieces of a plan forming in my mind. Alex wasn't just cheating on his wife. He was embezzling from his own company. That was a federal crime, not just a moral failing. And Claire wasn't just cheating on me. She was using our joint assets to fund her affair while lying about her business expenses. That would play very well in divorce court, especially with the right judge. I opened my laptop and started typing. Not a confrontation, that would come later. Instead, I was crafting something much more devastating, a complete dossier of their affair, with financial records, photos, and a timeline that would destroy both of their reputations. But first, I needed to set the stage. I picked up my phone and started making calls. "Hey, Mom," I said when my mother answered. "How would you like to come for dinner this weekend? Claire's making her famous pot roast." "That sounds lovely, dear. Is everything all right? You sound strange." "Everything's perfect, Mom. In fact, I think this might be the most important family dinner we've ever had." Next, I called Claire's parents, then Jessica and Alex, then my law partner, Mike Henderson, and his wife. By the time I was done, I'd invited 14 people to what I was already thinking of as the Last Supper. "Honey?" Claire's voice came from the top of the stairs. "Who are you calling so late?" "Just planning a little surprise," I called back. "Hope you don't mind, but I invited everyone over for dinner Saturday night. Figured it was time we had the whole gang together." There was a pause. "Everyone?" "Everyone who matters. It's going to be a night to remember." I heard her footsteps retreat to our bedroom, and I smiled in the darkness of my office. Saturday was 3 days away. 3 days to gather the rest of my evidence and prepare for the most important presentation of my legal career. Because I wasn't just planning a dinner party, I was planning a trial, with Claire and Alex as the defendants and everyone we cared about as the jury. And by Sunday morning, everyone would know exactly what kind of people they really were. Friday morning, Tommy called with an update that made my day. "Your boy Alex is in deep shit," he said without preamble. "I got a buddy who works in financial crimes, and he ran those bank records I copied. Alex has been skimming from his company for almost a year. We're talking about 200 grand easy." "Can you prove it?" "Already did. Got copies of the falsified expense reports, the dummy vendor accounts, the whole 9 yards. This ain't just cheating on his wife. This is federal prison time." I felt a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. "What about Claire?" "She's been more careful, but she's still using joint accounts for the affair. Hotel rooms, dinners, even bought him a watch last month for 3 grand. If you play this right in divorce court, she won't get a dime." "Perfect. Email me everything. I want it all organized and ready to go by tomorrow night." "You got it, boss. But Ryan, be careful how you handle this. These people are going to be desperate when you corner them, and desperate people do stupid things." I hung up and leaned back in my office chair, looking out at the city skyline. 20 floors below, people were going about their normal Friday routines, completely unaware that my world was about to explode. My secretary knocked on the door. "Mr. Mitchell, your wife called. She wanted to know if you need her to pick up anything special for tomorrow's dinner." "Tell her I've got everything handled," I said. "Everything." That afternoon, I left work early and drove to Best Buy. I needed a few pieces of technology for tomorrow night's presentation: a wireless projector, a portable screen, and a high-end laptop with plenty of processing power. The sales kid probably thought I was setting up a home theater system, if only he knew. At home, Claire was in full hostess mode, cleaning the house and planning the menu. She seemed nervous, which was interesting. Maybe she sensed something was off, or maybe she was just worried about having Alex and Jessica in the same room while maintaining her act. 14 people, she said, more to herself than to me. "I'll need to use the good china, and we'll have to set up the folding table in the dining room." "Don't worry about it," I said. "I want this to be perfect." It's a lot of people for a casual dinner. Are you sure there's not some special occasion I'm forgetting?" I walked over and put my hands on her shoulders, looking directly into her green eyes. "There's definitely a special occasion. I'm planning to make an announcement that will change everything." She went pale. "What kind of announcement?" "You'll see. But don't worry. Everyone's going to know exactly who you really are by the end of the night." I kissed her forehead and walked away, leaving her standing in the kitchen with a look of growing panic on her face. That evening, Megan was at a sleepover, so it was just Claire and me for dinner. We ate in relative silence, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Claire kept glancing at me like she was trying to figure out what I was thinking. "Ryan," she finally said as we were finishing dessert, "is everything okay between us? You've been acting strange lately." "Strange how?" "I don't know. Distant, like you're planning something." I set down my fork and really looked at her. Even now, even knowing what I knew, she was beautiful. We'd met in college, got married young, built a life together. There had been good times, great times even. Megan's birth, buying this house, family vacations, quiet Sunday mornings in bed. But all of that was gone now, poisoned by her betrayal. "I'm planning something," I admitted. "Something that's been a long time coming." "What does that mean?" "It means tomorrow night is going to be very interesting." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She knew something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what. And that uncertainty was eating her alive. Good. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Hey man, Jess isn't feeling well. Might have to skip tomorrow night." I texted back immediately. "Sorry to hear that, but this is really important to me. Can't you come alone if she's not up to it?" "What's so important about a dinner party?" "Trust me, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be unforgettable." There was a long pause, then, "Okay, I'll be there." Perfect. I needed Alex there for this to work. Jessica too, actually. She deserved to know what kind of man she'd married. But I'd figure out a way to get her there. I called Jessica directly. "Hey Jess, it's Ryan. Alex said you might not make it tomorrow night." "I'm just exhausted, Ryan. These double shifts are eliminating me, and I think I'm coming down with something." "I understand, but this dinner is really important to me. I'm making a big announcement, and I'd hate for you to miss it. Plus, Claire's making that pot roast you love." "What kind of announcement?" "The kind that affects everyone in our little group. Please, Jess, I really need you there." There was something in my voice that must have convinced her, because she sighed and said, "Okay, I'll be there, but I might leave early if I'm not feeling better." "That's fine. Just make sure you're there for the main course." After I hung up, Claire was staring at me from the kitchen doorway. "What was that about?" "Just making sure our friends don't miss the show." "What show, Ryan? You're scaring me." I walked past her toward the stairs. "Good. You should be scared." That night, I lay in bed next to Claire, listening to her toss and turn. She knew something was coming, but she couldn't figure out what. The not knowing was probably worse than the actual revelation would be. Around midnight, she got up and went downstairs. I followed quietly, watching from the top of the stairs as she paced the living room with her phone pressed to her ear. "I think he knows," she was whispering. "He's acting so strange, and he keeps talking about making announcements and changing everything." I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but I could guess who she was talking to. "No, I don't think we should cancel. That would look suspicious. But maybe we should. I don't know. Be prepared for anything." She hung up and stood there in the dark living room, hugging herself. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the video. The lies. The 16 years of marriage she was ready to throw away, and the sympathy disappeared. Tomorrow night, Claire and Alex would learn what happened when you betrayed Ryan Mitchell, and everyone we cared about would be there to witness their downfall. I went back to bed and slept better than I had in weeks. Saturday evening arrived with the crisp clarity of a perfect autumn night, the kind of evening that made you believe in new beginnings, which was exactly what I was counting on. By 6 o'clock, our house was transformed. Claire had outdone herself with the decorations, candles, fresh flowers, our best china, and crystal. The dining room table was extended to its full length, set for 14 people. She'd even polished the silver that had been her grandmother's. "Everything looks beautiful," I told her, and I meant it. It seemed fitting that her last performance as the perfect wife should be her best. "Thank you," she said, smoothing her black dress nervously. "I just want everything to be perfect for your announcement." "Oh, it will be. Trust me." The guests started arriving at 6:30. My parents came first, followed by Claire's parents, then Mike Henderson and his wife Sarah. Jessica arrived alone, looking pale and tired, but dressed nicely. "Where's Alex?" I asked her. "He's coming. Had to stop by the office first. Some crisis with a client." She rolled her eyes. "You know how he is about work." I knew exactly how Alex was about work, especially the creative accounting part. By 7, everyone was there except Alex. Claire kept checking her phone and glancing toward the door. I could see the anxiety radiating off her in waves. "Should we start without him?" my mother asked. Let's give him a few more minutes, I said. I really want everyone here for this. Alex finally arrived at 7:15, looking harried and checking his phone constantly. Sorry I'm late, he said, kissing Jessica's cheek and shaking hands with the other men. Work emergency. No problem, I said, clapping him on the back. Now we can begin. Dinner was perfect. Claire had made her famous pot roast, along with roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and a chocolate cake for dessert. The conversation flowed easily. Talk about work, kids, local politics, vacation plans, just a normal dinner party with friends and family. I played the perfect host, making sure everyone's wine glass stayed full and keeping the conversation moving. But underneath, I was watching Claire and Alex. They were being careful not to make eye contact, not to sit too close, not to give anything away. But I could see the tension between them, the unspoken communication that passed between lovers. After dessert, I stood up and tapped my wine glass with a spoon. Before we move to the living room for coffee, I said, I have something I'd like to share with everyone. As I mentioned, I have an announcement to make. The table went quiet, everyone turning to look at me. Claire's face had gone pale, and Alex was holding his wine glass so tightly his knuckles were nearly colorless. First, let me say how much it means to me to have all of you here tonight. You're the most important people in my life. Family, friends, colleagues, the people I trust most in the world. I walked over to the sideboard where I'd set up the laptop and projector earlier, claiming I wanted to show some photos from Megan's talent show. I've learned some things recently that I think you all should know. Things about trust and loyalty, and what happens when the people closest to you betray that trust. Ryan, Claire said quietly, maybe this isn't the right time. Actually, this is the perfect time, I said, opening the laptop, because I believe in honesty. I believe in truth, and I believe that when people do terrible things, there should be consequences. The projector hummed to life, casting a bright square of light on the wall behind me. What I'm about to show you might be shocking, I continued, but I think it's important that everyone knows who they're really dealing with. I clicked on the first file. It was a photo of Claire and Alex kissing in the parking lot of the Riverside Inn, taken 3 days ago by Tommy's telephoto lens. The reaction was immediate. Gasps around the table, Jessica's wine glass hitting the floor and shattering, Claire's mother putting her hand over her mouth in horror. Ryan, stop! Claire pleaded, but I was just getting started. I clicked to the next image, Alex's hand on Claire's ass as they walked into the hotel. Then another of them coming out 2 hours later, Claire's hair messed up, both of them looking satisfied. These were taken this week, I said calmly. But the affair has been going on for months. I have documentation going back to January. You son of a bitch, Alex snarled, starting to stand up. You can't... Sit down, Alex, I said, and something in my voice made him comply. We're just getting started. I clicked to a financial document. This is Alex's expense report from last month. Notice the charges to client entertainment that actually correspond to hotel rooms where he was sleeping with my wife. Ryan, my mother gasped. I'm sorry for the language, Mom, but I think accuracy is important here. I clicked to another document. And this is Claire's credit card statement, showing $3,000 spent on a watch for Alex while she told me we couldn't afford to fix our leaky roof. The room was silent except for Claire's quiet sobbing and Jessica's sharp breathing. But wait, there's more, I said, channeling my best courtroom voice. Alex, did you tell Jessica about the $200,000 you've embezzled from your own company? Jessica's head snapped toward her husband. What? Or Claire, did you tell your parents about the joint account you've been draining to fund your affair? Claire's father, a stern man who'd never particularly liked me, was staring at his daughter with disgust. I clicked through more documents, more photos, more evidence of their betrayal. Bank records, hotel receipts, text messages Tommy had somehow managed to retrieve. Stop, Jessica said quietly. Then louder. Stop. I paused, looking at her. Tears were streaming down her face, but her voice was steady. How long? She asked Alex. Jess, I can explain. How long? Alex looked around the table desperately, as if someone might help him. No one moved. 8 months, he whispered. Jessica nodded slowly, then picked up her purse and walked out. The front door slammed behind her. I think we should go too, my father said, standing up. The other guests began to follow suit, mumbling awkward goodbyes and avoiding eye contact with Claire and Alex. Within 5 minutes, it was just the four of us. Me, Claire, Alex, and the wreckage of our lives scattered across the dining room table. You bastard, Alex said, finally finding his voice. You vindictive bastard. You've destroyed everything. I destroyed everything, I laughed. That's rich, coming from a man who's been screwing my wife in cheap hotel rooms while embezzling from his own company. The embezzlement thing is bullshit, Alex said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Should we call the FBI and let them sort it out? Alex went pale and said nothing. I turned to Claire, who was still sitting at the table, mascara streaked down her cheeks. 16 years, I said. 16 years of marriage, and you threw it away for this piece of shit. Ryan, please, she whispered. We can work this out. We can go to counseling, we can... No, I said firmly. We can't. Because on Monday morning, I'm filing for divorce. And thanks to all this evidence, you won't get a penny of alimony or a minute of custody with Megan. You can't do that. She's my daughter, too. A daughter you were willing to abandon for your affair. I don't think any judge is going to be sympathetic to that. Alex stood up abruptly. I'm leaving. Good idea, I said. You might want to call a lawyer, too. Both kinds, divorce and criminal defense. After Alex left, Claire and I sat in the destroyed remains of our dinner party. The candles were still burning, casting flickering shadows on the walls. The beautiful table setting looked obscene now, like a crime scene decorated with fine china. Why? She asked finally. Why did you have to humiliate me like that, in front of everyone? Because humiliation is the only currency you understand, I said. You humiliated me every time you met Alex in that hotel room, every time you lied about where you were, every time you came home and kissed me with his taste still on your lips. She flinched as if I'd hit her. I loved you, I continued. For 16 years, I loved you more than anything, and you threw it away like garbage. I made a mistake, she sobbed. You people make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Claire. This was a choice. 8 months of choices, and now you get to live with the consequences. I stood up and started clearing the table, stacking our wedding china with methodical precision. Where am I supposed to go? She asked. I don't care. Hotel, your sister's place, the street. Just be gone by tomorrow night when Megan gets home from her sleepover. Ryan, please. No, I said, not looking at her. We're done talking. We're done being married. We're done. She sat there for another few minutes, crying quietly, then finally got up and went upstairs. I heard her moving around in our bedroom, packing. By midnight, she was gone. I sat alone in my kitchen, drinking bourbon and looking at the mess she'd left behind. 16 years of marriage ended in one evening, but as I sat there, I didn't feel sad or regretful. I felt free.